With those few remarks, I beg to support.
The Honorable KAWANJIKU.
Thank you, Chair. I rise to support and also congratulate my brother, Honorable KJ, for coming up with this motion. For indeed, we really need to start thinking about the future. And I have seen it even in the UAE country, Mr. Speaker, where they are coming with the Museum of the Future. They start thinking ahead in terms of what and how our country, in terms of technology, will look like. And you allocate a certain resources for people to only think and imagine how the future will look like. But sometimes as a third world country, we find ourselves in a situation whereby we are challenged by the technology when it is already too late, and when the other countries have already accommodated and aligned themselves with the technology and moving forward. We have the issue of cryptocurrency, Mr. Speaker. We have the issue of AI. But as a government and as a state, what are we doing to make sure that we incorporate the minds and the innovations that are coming along with this type of innovations, Mr. Speaker? We realize that we are really lagging behind. We must look for a way to even motivate our young people, challenge them in terms of coming up with technologies, with innovations, and maybe in a way or the other to harness that kind of thinking and that kind of mindset and start preparing them to take the future ahead of them, Mr. Speaker. And I support, because we must allocate resources to things that matters in this country, Mr. Speaker. Coming up with a museum in every county, it's not a hard thing to us. I may even propose, if it is so difficult, then let's come with one or two within our regions and within our republic, Mr. Speaker, by a way of trying to encourage young people to come up with innovations. Even go ahead and set a kitty, Mr. Speaker, whereby we'll be supporting some of the students who are doing very well in terms of innovations, Mr. Speaker. We have seen in our media young people coming up with technologies, but they end up going nowhere because of lack of, capital or lack of funding to ensure that they, multiply, the innovations and the things that they have come up with, Mr. Speaker. These ones must be encouraged. If we really matter, if we really want to focus on this nation, if we really want to, put resources to things that matters, this is one of the issues that matters, Mr. Speaker. And even the motion that was ahead in terms of talking about bursaries and combining all the bursaries, Mr. Speaker, we must be able to allocate resources to things that will bring results towards the end of the next 5 years or 10 years. If you look at Kibaki, Mr. Speaker, and we were talking with other honorable members, he came up with what we call Vision 2030 blueprint. Some of the things that are happening in this republic is as a result of Vision 2030. It's as a result people sat down, thought through about the resources and where they're going to put the resources, how they want this country to look like in the next 20, 30 years, and shockingly, Mr. Speaker, we have been able to achieve quite a number of those issues. I think now it is about 3 or 4 years remaining for the Vision 2030 to come to a close, Mr. Speaker. We must also start thinking, moving forward, what is our vision for the next 50 years? What do we want to do as a government, as a country in the next 50 years, Mr. Speaker? If the United Arab Emirates, they're coming with a Museum of the Future because they want to start thinking around and allocating resources towards that. But we cannot continue thinking through the orthodox means and allocating resources the conventional way, Mr. Speaker, and we fail to focus on investing on the future of our republic, Mr. Speaker. Even if it's 1% of the resources, let us allocate that 1% to focus on planning our country for the next 50 years, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, I rise to support this motion.
The MP for Igembe Central, the Honorable Daniel Carito.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. I want to say from onset that I stand to support this motion because it's a very relevant one. And, Mr. Speaker, this country, we have very bright brains. We have boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen for this country who can create a lot given an opportunity. Mostly what they lack is these infrastructures to do great things. And that's why I support this motion. And I say as a government and as a country, we need to think of the future and establish these museums so that our young people can do great things in technology. Mr. Speaker, research is the way to go, and modern science is the way to go as at now. And without these museums, we will just be seeing and talking them on papers. For example, Mr. Speaker, in my area, we have been struggling to establish a mineral research center, and funds were set aside. If this center is working right now, we could have known a lot on how to assist our farmers and our traders in improving on their cash crop. We need to establish, because in most cases, we have countries that are coming up and doing great in innovations because their states have been assisting them, and we need to follow suit so that our country can move forward in developing. Because right now, everything is technology. And if we don't put structures in place to assist in building these technologies, we will not be at par with the rest of the world. That's why I support this one, this motion, and I will encourage our country, our government to fall and establish these museums, science museums, so that our country can grow forward and compete with the rest of the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That is Honorable Dorcas. Honorable Dorothy Kiara.
Thank you.
Honorable Dorothy Kiara, use the shortest time possible. You will be followed by Honorable Matia. Then I'll call the mover to reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I first and foremost want to commend Honorable Kiarie for bringing this very, very important motion, establishment of a science museum. Honorable Speaker, many a times we have contended with being called the third world. And Honorable Speaker, I am very excited that now we have started thinking innovation. Honorable Speaker, we have countries which are far much developed, countries like Japan. And they are so developed because they inspired innovation, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, I want to challenge our government and say, this is the high time that we must establish and have a ministry of science and innovation, so that, Honorable Speaker, our boys and girls who are brilliant, boys and girls who are very key in innovation, can be placed somewhere and be encouraged and motivated with a budget within the ministry that can help in their growth. Honorable Speaker, as we move with the new education competence-based curriculum, it is giving our students pathways. When they reach grade 9, Honorable Speaker, they will divert to different pathways where they will showcase their talents. And Honorable Speaker, we cannot do this theoretically. We can only be able to achieve what we want to achieve as a country in both technology, in both innovation, in both the way we want our economy to grow, Honorable Speaker, if we invest in the Science Museum. Honorable Speaker, I strongly support this and say, Honorable Speaker, we don't leave this as a motion. Let us move ahead and push the government, Honorable Speaker, to establish a ministry of science and innovation so that, Honorable Speaker, we can be able to stop every time contending with being called third world. We move towards where those developed worlds stay. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I strongly support this motion.
The MP for Baringo County, Honorable Matia.
Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker. I also want to take this opportunity to support this motion by my chairman, Honorable John Kiarie. And from the onset, Mr. Speaker, I also sit in this He is my chair in the communication, innovation, information.
Did you say?
Is my
Did you say is your chair?
He's
And
my
then
chairman.
you say you sit on him.
Okay.
It's your chairperson, eh?
He's my chairperson in the committee, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say, ICT or technology of today is a revolution that is in our times. And I must say, this is the only time and in the world that technology is being experienced. And it is here and forever. And that one means that this science technology is going to be a big factor. And I want to say, if we are going to create this, and through the Vision 2030, which we are actually putting all our resources in the country today, and to help the people of Kenya, specifically us as East Africans, we can see that Kenya has taken a very positive stride in making sure that technology is a factor, and more so ICT creation in our country. We have done a lot, especially in backbone and creating networks all over the country. And this is one of the reasons, and I want to support this motion by making sure that Science Museum is given an opportunity and given resources as part of the growth. And as you look at it, Mr. Speaker, today, artificial intelligence is the order of the day. And we cannot be left behind as a country. And using this museum, Science Museum, I want to say it's going to give us a very positive results going forward as a country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Kibagendi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support this motion. Science museums that are also known as science centers or discovery centers have made learning exciting in developed countries. It is important that we invest in these, in setting up these centers, these discovery centers that will make science learning accessible, and this will definitely provide the educational facilities that we may need for emerging generations to learn more effectively methods of learning in matters science, tech, and engineering. And hence, it is the reason why I rise to support my brother KJ for coming up with this motion that will definitely revolutionize the way future generations will learn. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable Mboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I was quite disappointed recently when exams began. And one of the things that is being really taken care of, using both guns and policemen and everybody supervising, is the phone. And you know, for the longest time, I did not have a chance to speak on this for other reasons or another. But when I see this motion raised by KJ, I realize that there's hope in us legislating well so that we can have a laboratory that can store technology. When you look at the policemen around examination centers guarding anybody who may appear with a phone, and therefore a phone seems to be a very sensitive gadget, which if it's around an examination center, it can be used for stealing or accessing exams. I just pity ourselves and where we are in terms of technology and what we are storing. Because for me, a phone should have been an enabler. You remember, you are not, Honorable Speaker, very close to me in terms of the same time being in school, Honorable Speaker, with all respect. But there's a time when a log book was not allowed in an examination room. And do you know that the FX was it FX82 calculator could not end an examination? If you are found with a calculator in an examination room, it would be advertised all over this country that those boys stole exams because they had a calculator. Now, a calculator is a requirement for you to sit for an exam. How I wish these are the businesses we should deal with so that our phone is an enabler. I want to see that day when we shall be told that come to school, come to an exam room and have the following things: a ruler, a calculator, a phone, and other things. That's when technology will be developed. Thank you so much.
The Honorable Owen Bayer, the Deputy Majority Leader, will be followed by the Minority Whip. Then the mover will reply.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the future is science. The future of this world is science. And it is science that has made nations great. And it is deliberate investment in science, in schools, in universities, and in the national capital. That is where we move a country. Because everything that we look at the great innovation coming from Kenya, M-Pesa, and how it has transformed everything in this country. Today, if you want food, Safaricom, M-Pesa. If you want medical services, whatever you want now is based on science. All transactions we do, science. So science is the future. And a country that aspires to be a great nation must invest in science. A great country, nation like the United States is great because they started investing in science. You know, okay, I'll forgive you for today. So, Honorable Speaker, if we must be a great nation, then we must invest deliberately in science. What Mwai Kibaki had in his mind when the Kwanzaa City was started, he thought that, and if you look at Vision 2030, there's great space for science. But then why should we have a science museum? The world over, if you look at great places, if you go to New York, you find a science museum. If you go to New Delhi, you'll find a science museum. If you go to London, you'll find a science museum. You'll find science museums. But why do we have science museums? So that people can see how science has progressed and where it is going. And that is what is critical. How do our young people, imaginations and innovators who want to be scientists, how do they know where science is going? Now, when we have science museums, the way these young people come to this parliament, and when they see what is in this parliament, and they experience what is in this parliament, they go out there and aspire to be members of parliament. Same way, if we take our young people to those science museums, they will want to be scientists, and therefore we grow the science corpus in them. Honorable Speaker, this is very timely, that as we look at CBC, which has areas of science and areas of arts, then how do we therefore enhance science, even for the young people in the remotest village in Uyombo, in my constituency, should be able to come to Nairobi or Mombasa to a science museum, look at the development in science that have been preserved there, and say, I also want to be a scientist. These young people study science, but they do not know where it has come from. If you look at, if you go to New York, you will see when these guys, the energy, the electricity, there's a museum on this guy who started the electricity. And every New Yorker will go to that museum to see how electricity started. And therefore, they come out and develop new energy, including the electrical car that is very popular. Because they have gone there, they have seen. And that's why countries are developing rapidly in science, because they have invested in preserving science and having science museums and allowing their people to see what science is. So, Honorable Speaker, I would like to see this country go science, because that is where the future is. Of course, those of you who are in arts, you know, the lawyers here, Emilio Diambo, you, other people do not understand this language. Scientists like I and a few others understand that investment in science is investing in the future. These guys who just talk in courts and talk and think they can eat words, you know, have very little to, they are consumers of money, they are not makers of wealth. We want to create wealth, and the only way we can create wealth in this country is through science. Look at the great things science has done in agriculture. Agriculture has been transformed by science today, and that's why there's better production. Manufacturing is science. We want to go that way. You know, ICT is science. That's where we want to go to. So, Honorable Speaker, I would like to see 3/4 of this country go science. and we will get leaps and bounds in development. So, Honorable Speaker, as much as many young people want to become lawyers and people who can talk poets and people like that, yes, they are there to entertain and give life, meaning to life. But we need to be producers, and we can only be producers through science, engineers, doctors, mechanics, all those kind of people, and we will have a secure country, a better future. I support this. And I want to see the next museum, science museum, in the next 1 year in Nairobi or in my village. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.